Good evening. So, okay, we will be discussing articles in quick succession today. So, okay. Anyway, we'll go to this first article, 2 steps forward in Manipur. Okay, what is happening in Manipur? Let us see. Firstly, to which aspect can you link this article to? Internal security. Going by the basics of internal security, what is the purpose of internal security discussions? Why should we care about internal security? Because it is linked to the stability. So it is an issue of law and order. Okay? Law and order. Now, when will you have an internal disturbance? There should be 2 groups. Let's say there is a group A and there is a group B, and there is a conflict between these 2 groups. I am giving you the thought framework for resolving a conflict of any internal security. 2 groups will be there, and there will be a conflict between those 2 groups. Okay? And the resolution mechanism will be the same irrespective of what those groups are. Okay? Mechanism will be the same, but the steps taken, the sequence of the steps can change. That's all. Now, to elaborate what I am talking about, let me explain. What if these 2 groups are 2 communities? What if these 2 groups are 2 states? Let's say in this case, and there are 2 groups, 2 tribes who came into conflict with each other. This is what happened in Manipur. Okay, you have the Kukis and then you have the Meiteis. This group wanted to have ST status, and this did not go well with Kukis, who already have the status, but they feel that opportunities are not given to them properly. Right? So when you have a conflict between these 2 groups, one group, according to this group, already has access to all the resources. Now if you give them reservation also, they already feel marginalized, and they are scared that this will alienate them even further. This is the genesis of the conflict. Now I will replace this conflict with any other conflict. Let's say in the case of border areas, what is a conflict? It is between one country and another country. How do we resolve this? Now let's take the case of left-wing extremism. In that case, the conflict is between left-wingers and the government. Internal security resolution, issues of internal security resolution involves a so-called DNA approach between 2 parties. The same approach should be adopted even by international relations between 2 countries. Okay, between 2 blocks, between 2 any sites. Whenever there is a conflict because of an issue between 2 groups, the only way you can resolve it is through dialogue, negotiation and an action. And this goes well with any human relation between two parties. If there is a conflict, the only way you can resolve that is through a dialogue, negotiation and an action. You have a dialogue, you have a negotiation, but you don't act upon that negotiations. Again they will feel disillusioned. This action is extremely important. You have a dialogue, you don't negotiate, because in a dialogue each parties will tell their own demands. but they're always, in opposing directions. Because there is, opposing directions, you will have a conflict. I'm not specifically trying to talk about this specific issue. I'm not a news reader. You're not here for news. There are many people who will do that better than me. And we are not here for that purpose. We are here to train our minds to think like policymakers. And you need to know how to do that. In this present case, what happened? Let me briefly tell you the timeline. 2 years ago, almost, in 2023, after Meiteis started to demand this ST status, violence broke out in Manipur. And quickly, the entire violence has turned into a riot. Sporadic violence in some spots became a riot throughout the state, where huge pockets of land was captured by militants. Now this is an attack on sovereignty of this country. Therefore, the government took over and kind of made an agreement with these militant groups that they will not expand their operations. And at the same time, the second national highway, NH2, was blocked so that communication becomes difficult for these militants and the immediate violence can be stopped. Okay? Why am I telling you all these events? Do you have to remember them? No, that is not the intent. Observe how the government acted in step-by-step manner. First, they started to establish a dialogue with the people they want to negotiate with. In step number 2, they physically blocked access. Third, they surrounded them from all the sides and then started the negotiations so that any spillover can stop. But this took some time. And as a result, some element of violence was anyway happening. 100% results were not achieved. And the issue has not been resolved. At present, what was happening was, whatever violence was happening, that was contained and status quo was there. Now, what is the government doing? It is in this context, this article is important. So, here, Ministry of Home Affairs came into the media and explained that first, they are taking 2 actions. One, the suspension of operations agreement with militant groups has been extended. Second, the free flow of National Highway 2 is, the National Highway is now open. There is a free flow of traffic now. So, what is this agreement? Like I told you, there are some terror groups or militant groups which were threatening the stability in that region. To stop them, the government came up with this agreement. Okay? So, what was there in this agreement? Let's see. This agreement is a tripartite ceasefire signed in 2008. Is this a new agreement? No. This is an old agreement. This time around, in the GS3 paper in internal security, you have had this question. What are the important agreements signed in Northeast? You are expected to recollect all this data. And it's difficult in the case of Northeast. So, pay attention. This SO agreement is not new. The same template was lifted and applied here also. That is how governance happens. You don't have to recreate laws for every scenario. If something is working well in one area, you might as well apply it in some other area also. See here. This agreement is a tripartite, meaning there are 3 parties. Union, state government and the 2 umbrella groups representing the Kuki-Zomi insurgent groups. Meiteis versus Kukis. The Kukis were disappointed. They already have resentment towards Meiteis and this demand has irritated them. So the militant groups from this tribes became the face of this violence. And this is not something new. This conflict is existing from many decades. This is not specific to India alone and not specific to Northeast alone. Every border conflict, take the case of Israel, take the case of Armenia, Azerbaijan, Nagorno-Karabakh, take the case of any border dispute. It is because of clash between two groups that stay at the border. Recently you've had Thailand and Cambodia. They are also fighting. Reasons are same. Human beings' demands are universal. Everybody want to stamp their authority. Whatever they want is right. And in this conflicting situation, you need an approach where there is a dialogue between two parties. And the role of government should be to facilitate that dialogue. This thought process, this template, you apply it in any issue, you will have an answer. The same framework. The role of state is to provide security and to resolve conflict between two warring groups. So the mechanisms established, the agreements signed, the stakeholders, what happened, this will form the basis of questions in internal security. Clear? So this tripartite agreement will be renewed periodically, and the same thing happened. But in 2023, 2 months before the conflict began, the Manipur government unilaterally pulled out of the agreement. This was the reason. It was working fine. Why do we have to disturb that? And because of disturbing that and the demand for ST status, because according to the cookie group, majority of the people in the government are Métis. So they have some influence. Now they are trying to exert that influence. They feel threatened and they want to retaliate with violence. So the good thing is that agreement was again reinstated. And this agreement may be having a different name, but in different regions something of the similar sort, where local groups who are feeling threatened were acknowledged by the central government. The name of the agreement might change in different areas, but the intent is same. Give respect to the concerns of the local population, contain them so that the conflict doesn't spread. Same template everywhere, universally, same thought. Clear? Renegotiation, like I told you, DNA approach. Negotiation will happen. Now you disturb the peace. You have to renegotiate. They will demand more. Previously, if they are asking, let's say for example, if two parties, this can happen to you in the market also. You go to a vendor in a market and he will tell you, I will give you this product for 100 rupees. Now you realize that there are so many other vendors, I will go to other people also, and you want to bargain. What will happen? You go to other vendors, they'll say 120, 130, 150. Then you realize this guy is cheaper. You come back. You'll ask him, okay, I'll take for 100. Now he'll be like, I want 110 rupees. Either take it or leave it. Similarly, when you disturb status quo by threatening, without discussion, without a dialogue, remember this. If negotiation, if they unilaterally they pulled out, if there was an informed consent, like you inform someone, when you take a decision, it should not be with a sense of authority. When you inform someone, you are giving them the dignity, that you are giving them the respect. If you don't give respect, what happens? This is what happens. Now you renegate. This time, they have a leverage. They will demand more. Yes or no? Let's see what is it they're asking. The ground rules of the revised agreement include honoring the territorial integrity of Manipur and working for a negotiated political solution. According to the ministry, they agreed to relocating. They previously occupied so many places, now they are taking a step back. They are depositing the weapons. Okay? And they are submitting the militant cadres to stringent physical verification. And this time around, if these militant groups change their stance, the punishments will be stricter, because state, as in the union, is now even more harsher because of the violence inflicted by them. Okay? For the cookie groups, some key cookie demands have already been accepted. Like I told you, previously they were not accepted, now they were accepted. Removal of Biren Singh, who was the chief minister. The hill tribes had long accused Singh of partisanship in the conflict, and was only after the imposition of president's rule in February that Kuki militant groups began to engage with the center. So they are accusing that this person was virtually blocking them from reaching out to the central government. Another Kuki concern was over valley-based Meitei insurgent groups who had a presence in Imphal and were operating freely. So, what is their justification? You are calling us terrorists, but what about the people in that region, from that other side? Why are you not acting against them? Now you ban them, we will also stop. Fair call. It has been accepted. In November 2023, the government had entered into a peace agreement with UNLF, the oldest militant group in the valley. Basically details like whatever is happening. Simply put, this DNA, see, how am I approaching this news? I am not approaching this news like a summary. I gave you a template of thought. I am just checking if this template is fitting or not. Is it logical enough? This is how you should approach any issue. Don't try to buy hard blindly. See the patterns uniformly across different regions. You have to learn internal security through news. Observe the similarities in the conflicts, because ultimately at the heart you have human beings there. And when it comes to power, when it comes to identity, every human being thinks alike. And that is the reason for the conflict. See, for example, negotiation here means this agreement is a negotiation. If I have to agree to this negotiation or this agreement, I want this. Let's say, for example, you are blocking my accounts, financial accounts. Unblock them, then I will sit for negotiation or further dialogue, not negotiation. Yes, negotiation means fulfilling the demands. If you put 100, maybe 10 will be resolved. I am demanding all the 100 will be cleared, but it doesn't work that way. We have to arrive at a middle ground. Negotiations are all about finding what is the middle ground. Na tera na mera. What is the middle ground? Okay? Dialogue, negotiation, and then action is based on an agreement which is formalized. Yeah. Yeah. Agreement doesn't mean you have to always, negotiation doesn't mean always you have to formally sign. It is one of the step. It is not actually a step by step. You, just for the sake of analysis, I'm giving you like that. Finally, every action will be based on a formalized agreement only. But what goes behind, when you follow the news, negotiations will happen because of a step by step process, and you are not expected to you are not expected to follow the commentary completely on a day-to-day basis. Ultimately, you will only remember the important things. It has to reach some conclusion level, right? That is what I meant. Okay, moving on. A nuts to business. Okay. Recently, we saw that GST rates were normalized. This entire article is about why that action was taken, how will it impact the businesses, where will it be beneficiary. And now let us try to link this news item to a static economic concept of Laffer's curve. How many of you know what is Laffer's curve? What should be here? Is it tax rate or tax revenue here? Or this? Okay, this. What is this? Now tell me, what should I put here? Is it tax rate or tax revenue? This is tax revenue. So revenue increases. This is tax rate, you mean to say. Are you sure? This is the answer. Okay. Exactly. This is right. This is same thing. I just changed the x-axis and y-axis. Now, what is Laffer's curve? What does it say? It is an economic principle which says that if you increase the taxes at a certain point, tax rates are increased, then it will be difficult for people to, this point, beyond a certain threshold, if you increase the tax rates, revenue will fall down because people don't have an incentive to pay taxes. People should find it reasonable. So your taxes should be in this range only. That is where you will have more and more tax revenue because people find it easy to comply with and it is not too much. It is okay for people. For example, 5%, 12%, 18% and 28%. These were the slabs before. There is an accusation that why is the government charging 5% on bare essentials? Why can't you make it easy for poor people? Okay. And the middle class had this problem. You are anyway taxing us. Let's say upper middle class. Let's say software employees who are earning, let's say 30 lakhs. 30 lakhs will fall into the 30% bracket. You remove them directly, it is 21 lakhs just for the sake of it. Convenience. There is surcharge also, let's say 20 lakhs. This is the effective amount that you get in your hand. Okay. Now, in this 20 lakhs, ideally I am already losing so much. You are imposing GST on the top of it. Double taxation burden. So, I would not want to pay income tax or GST because I feel like I am not getting value for money. Same is the case with businesses. They don't want to pay GST because one, compliance is so difficult. I don't even want to register my business in GST, for example, because I will underreport my revenue. I don't want harassment from GST officers. I don't want professional tax assessment. Nothing. I will operate in cash. This is how most small businesses operate. Why is this? Because one, there is a perception of corruption. Two, compliance burden. Every month you have to file taxes and it is so difficult and confusing for normal people. Or even if you are filing GST for every 3 months, it is difficult for normal small shopkeepers. Why should I do that? They won't register. So, in an economy, we are losing out on so much revenue just because one, tax rate is high, two, compliance burden is there, three, people feel that it is not justified. What if I reduce? Of course, the tax collection will come down. But in the long run, economic theory says we will have more taxation because people don't have an incentive to evade small tax. Let's say if you evade tax and save 100 rupees, the penalty is 130. I would rather pay 100 because it doesn't impact me much. Or you realize that the penalty is 130. Then the officer comes and says, just pay me 70. I will leave you. You will pay. Next officer comes. He is transferred. Next officer comes. He will ask you another 30. You are back to square one. You paid 100 and you don't have a proof that you paid. Some other day, another officer might come. Why do you want all this headache? I would rather pay this 100. But what if it is 1000? They're okay paying 130. They're okay paying even 200 also. Why don't you make it easy for businesses to follow? This is the logic followed here. Okay. So why do you have such a lengthy article for this? It's the same thing. They are explaining everything. Okay. They are explaining through an analysis, and it is not necessary for us. The only point that you can take away is, okay, the reform bets that simplification, reduced compliance cost, and enhanced voluntary participation will generate more revenue. Always remember this logic in economics or any government policy, not just economics. If people are voluntarily coming forward and complying with any law, the government resources spent on ensuring that the law is working properly will be very minimal. What if you voluntarily observe people that they are paying the taxes themselves? You don't have to recruit so many GST officers. The headache will reduce. That is what the government is trying to do. The services are also moving in that direction. You have faceless assessment. They're trying to include AI based assessment, and reduce manual intervention so that economic activity increases. Eventually in the long run, you will see that maybe IRS will see a dip in the number of people recruited, but it will be compensated by other services like IAS, where more number of IAS would be required. So eventually the size of bureaucracy will have to grow to cater to this growing population, but in what direction will be decided by reforms like this. Okay, moving on. The domestic sphere in a new India. Okay, this article is written by Brinda Karath, who is a senior leader. So why am I talking about the writer here specifically? Because from a sociological standpoint, there are two facets that you have to remember. One is that of her identity, gender-based identity. Two, because of her political inclination. So she's a woman and a communist. So inherently there will be some biases when people coming from a certain ideology give their opinions. So the mistake that many aspirants do is just take it, summarize it, and store it in their notes verbatim. There are merits to the argument here, but also there are some concerns. In this specific article, I request you to listen with an open mind and look at data and evidence only, and not be carried away by just historical precedents. We have to go by data in the present world. Okay? Okay, let's see. What is this article about? It is about the role of women in an economy. Historically, women are controlled in a patriarchal setup. What does this patriarchal setup? A family system where men take the decisions. Division of labor is based on the economic activity which requires physical labor. So men used to go to farms, industries, and women were the caretakers. Okay, this was the traditional setup. And when we discuss patriarchy, you have to understand that that structure worked in previous era. But does it have its disadvantages? Sure. Looking from the standpoint of the rights of women, yes, the choice is reduced. So definitely we have had that problem. Now in this situation, we are treating women as a homogeneous entity. We are taking them together as a homogeneous entity, and we are trying to go by the law of averages, and we are generalizing everything. Let's say for example statistics. Average 7,000 women have died every year from 17 to 22 in horrendous cases where they are burnt, legally known as dowry deaths. This is a fact. You cannot change it. What is the source of this fact? NCRB. 35,000 women are dead. It is not only their sindoor that has been wiped out, a woman's life has been terminated. The National Family Health Survey noted that 30% of the women reported violence. Third of the 4.45 lakh cases of registered crimes against women are in domestic violence. Now, we are looking at data pointers which show that women are suffering because of the existing patriarchal norms. Now, let's look at the principles of justice. Should we go now? Let's apply some ethics theory here. When you deal with principles like justice, I'm asking this question: should you consider every single individual? Or let's take the case of a group. Is justice supposed to be delivered for a group or an individual? Individual. What if you do it for a group? Let's say for example there are 100 people. In this 100 people, 70 got justice, 30 are ignored. Is it okay? In this group, unless and until 100% of the people get the justice, it is not acceptable. As a conception or as a principle, which one should we follow? This one or this one? Why? Why? But in democracy also, we are not getting majority. 35-40% is what we are getting. So what is the problem? "70 people are getting justice. What will happen if 30 don't get it?" Okay, let's change that number. 99 and 1. Now what? Why? 99 are getting, right? Be practical. One person won't get it. So what is the big deal? No, constitution is designed for us. There is no constitution, let's say. Let's design a constitution which is okay with this model. What is the problem? Okay, let it not be. 99 are getting, this is a practical. One person is not agreeing. There is so much, resistance from that person. Okay. Now let's say we moved ahead. We ignored that one person and moved ahead. Now what? Exactly. Popular than principle. But why should principle be adhered to? I'll give you a case from history. What if this one person can change the trajectory of history? Can you think of any such example? But that is a best case scenario. Can you think of any other example where one person who felt that there was injustice? Hitler. What if that one person turns out to be Hitler? There is this English movie called Joker. How many of you watched it? You know this Batman and Joker movie, right? What happens in that movie? Joker is someone who is having some mental illness, and constantly he is made fun of. He feels that nobody cares. And in such a society, if you are normalizing, poor mental health, that one person can turn the society upside down because of his frustration, because he feels like he doesn't belong. I want to create anarchy. So there is this quotation, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. This is the reason. Yeah. Hitler. See, being influenced, that's a hypothetical debate. Let's say, for example, 99 of them are convinced. What if I can change them now? That is what exactly happens in rhetoric. Different timelines. I am talking about, let's say this is 1900. Now, let's say 1940. 40 years later, this person turned them into this group. Let's talk later. So this 100% principle is important in the conception of justice, because this is how you can create stability in the society. Okay? Now, in this case, when we are talking about women's issue, we are talking about the ideology of the person here. We are talking about how gender issues are clubbed with economic issues. Yes, they are linked. The central point that I am trying to prove here is that when you are reducing women to just numbers, either in terms of the dignity. See, here what happens is their dignity is being ignored. How do you restore that dignity? Is it by saying that we have to, in the domestic sphere, we have to count their contributions for giving care? What is the central argument here? Let's say, for example, there is a housewife. You are attributing the treatment of that housewife to patriarchy traditionally. But now by saying that you have to count the number of hours spent in domestic work in GDP, we are reducing even the institution of family, institution of, how do I put it? The whole institution of family, marriage, where social cohesion and the emotional bonds involved, to economics. Indirectly, the writer is contributing, or actually saying that I don't like capitalism, but let's bring the plight of women, which is a social issue related to the mindset, and solve that social issue also through the capitalist mindset. This is the biggest contradiction I find in this methodology. How can you create an economic solution for a social problem? Are you saying that today we don't have laws to deal with all these problems? Do we have laws to stop domestic violence? Yes, of course we do. Then what is stopping people from reporting? It is the mindset. A social problem should have a social solution, not an economic one. Yes, economic problems manifest through patriarchy. But I will find a workaround if the root cause is not addressed. Now by showing this entire women's issue as a dichotomy, that it is either due to culture or the institution of family, or it is because of patriarchy, what are we essentially trying to prove? Ultimately, money is everything. We are trying to say that by attaching economic value to even social bonds, we are trying to reduce everything to economics. This is a reductionist approach, in my opinion. So, how do we solve this? Let us agree that economic solution to a social problem will eventually resolve. European countries, like let's say for example the Scandinavian countries, Europe, Finland, Norway, Sweden, all these countries which have high quality of life, they are focused on liberalism. There, this same concept was somehow implemented through state-led policies. But this also has risen to new problems, especially amongst women. Rising number of suicides, loneliness, infertility, and all the existing social bonds of cohesion are no longer working. Don't you think it's a problematic thing? We are trying to solve one problem, and in the process we are creating newer ones. The root problem is lack of dignity and respect, and that cannot come just because you attach some economic value to the care given by women. Instead, the social solution should be to reframe that patriarchy and the power imbalance in the society and treat them as equals. What does it take to create that atmosphere is the point of discussion we should have, rather than attaching a economic value. Money doesn't solve everything. In fact, how can you quantify? Are you saying the amount of care given in, let's say, a family residing in slum will be treated equally as the care given by a billionaire's mom? If yes, how are you quantifying the intangible elements? Like say for example, in a rich family, even after nurturing and giving care, you are giving them network to expand. Even the female child born in a rich family will have more access than a extremely poor male child. Both the mothers want the best of the things for them. How can you quantify this? That is the reason why I find this idea to be absurd. Yes, if you apply this not at a family level but at a community level, we need to think. There are some important points, interesting points here. For example, ASHA workers. They have been contributing to the local communities. Anganwadi workers and ASHA workers. They are contributing at the local level and their work gets very minimal income. If it is their own family, they will work hard. But if they are working for a community in the name of voluntary work, if you don't recognize them either with respect or monetary value, that system will become difficult to sustain. So to that extent, I agree with this writer that we have to incentivize community work which is voluntary. People should have better economic incentives for voluntary work. For example, in an Anganwadi center, a midday meal scheme is cooked. Don't you think the worker will be much more happy with a bit more money? They will do it with much more interest. Why should they work every day with the same level of voluntariness? Why do you expect them? That is the responsibility of the government. Why should we depend on voluntary work? Okay, now the writer says that we have to universalize this and regularize the jobs. What will happen if we make them just like any other government job? There is no accountability. Yesterday, one student was asking, why is this system like this? Because there is no accountability in government. Nobody questions. Who should be questioning? People. Are people questioning? They don't have the time. 1, 2, they are ignorant. When I say ignorant, they are not interested to know what is bothering them to the level that it will impact or cause a policy change. You are asking, like, it is happening in such open, broad daylight, and yet people are not responding because people don't know the gravity of what is going to happen. People have their own inherent biases. Instead of looking at the root cause, people will, apply their own flavor to that and put it forward in front of the people. Whoever convinces the population, they will get to win the votes. Yes, but is there a guarantee? Accountability means unconditional, not when I want to. Minimal is present, but minimal doesn't help. We need unconditional. Let's say you are depending on midday meal scheme. I cook 4 days a week. Rest 3 days you go figure out. Is that a stable system? I don't know which those 3 days are. I will cook whenever I want. If I don't have a mood today, I won't cook. What will happen to people on that? Is it a stable plan? No, right? Something similar. Okay, this is a very straightforward article you can read. Basically, India and Iran have shared civilizational ties based on religion. So, just like how Vedas existed here, back then, they also had Zendavasta. Okay? So, from that time till now, how did the relations evolve? You can read this directly, you can understand. The reason why I have put this in the slide is because you have to read it by yourself. Same thing, what are the problems? Two groups, India, Iran. Iran is dealing with its own headaches, India is dealing with its own headaches. Where can we come together to resolve the conflicts? Okay. Why social media ban triggered Nepal's Gen Z? Okay. This is a good thing actually. There is this famous saying, history repeats itself. The first time as a tragedy, second time as a farce. But I will just stick to the first half because that's a saying attributed to someone. But I will stick to the first half. History repeats itself. Back in 2010, we have had a very famous event 15 years ago. Can anyone tell me, in the world history syllabus, you will notice this, 2010. The so-called Arab Spring. Are you aware of Arab Spring? There are so many revolutions there. Jasmine Revolution, Tulip Revolution, etc., etc. Are you aware of what happened in that? Are you aware? But how was it triggered? It is triggered because of an event that went viral on social media related to a fruit vendor. A fruit vendor was killed on the streets and it was filmed, or it was spread, the news spread on social media. People felt so disgusted with that act that they came out onto the streets, and eventually that led people to organize themselves. Social media was used as a tool to organize themselves on streets. The message was spread and governments were toppled one after the other. It started in Tunisia, then later spread to Libya, Egypt, and the entire Arab world has seen an earth-shattering shift in how politics were conducted. And it continued, the impact of that revolution continued for many years. Something similar is happening in Nepal, Indonesia, etc., etc., across the world. Social media has become a platform where people can voice their opinions much more quickly than, let's say, in the times before. if you wanted to voice out your opinion in 70s and 80s, you still need a public platform or a media channel to come out and express your disappointment. Today, all you need is a mobile phone. Take out your front camera. If you have something to share, share it, post it on your timeline, and if it clicks or resonates with the public, it will go viral. It's as simple as that. Now, in such an event in Nepal, the problem of the Gen Z is that they were pointing out the corruption and the lack of governance, and I would rather say the apathy of the government on one hand, not enough jobs, not enough educational opportunities, even those who are educated, jobs are not there, healthcare is ignored, no trade is happening, economic growth is absent. This is the reality. On the other hand, you have the trend of Nepo babies, where on social media it is trending that there are kids of nepotism who are flaunting their wealth, mostly from the government circles. When this trend was happening, the government decided to ban. And that's all it takes for the Gen Z. You have only one thing now. You are taking that away from us. They've banned Instagram, so they came onto the streets. I'm just kidding, not Instagram, just everything except TikTok, okay. Because TikTok is Chinese company and Nepal is in debt, so they will have to obey their master, right? So that's what happened. Ironically, TikTok is the most viral platform. Their algorithm will help you reach millions in a few days. So, how do you use this article? Impact of globalization and impact of technology on governance, impact of technology on democracy. This is how you can use this in essays. Okay, that's it for the day. We'll continue in tomorrow's class. We'll have more answer writing. So today we have discussed some frameworks in internal security, discussed on how you should think about any editorial. Always question the premise. Don't compare apples with oranges. There should be a fair comparison. Economic issues, economic solutions. But if the problem of that economy is social, you cannot have a economic solution. You might have multiple laws, but if people don't comply with, they're of no use. Same logic even in GST. So if you understand human nature, you can just about understand every complex current affairs. Okay, that's it for the day. See you.